I will never forget the few weeks that I spent sharing a classroom wall with a screamer. Now, this particular school, we did ramp up for kindergarten. Kindergartners eventually attended full day school, just like all of the rest of the elementary school. But on that first day, they came with their parents, stayed for an hour or two, and then went home. And then the next couple of days, they stayed for that hour or two by themselves. And then after that, they spent maybe a half day for a few days, right? Until eventually they worked up to that full day. Took about 2 weeks to kind of go through this process where children were, until the children attended full days. So this particular day is the very first day that kindergartners were staying for lunch. And, my class getting ready for lunch. And all of a sudden, we hear through the wall screaming, right? If you don't know how to get your lunch and get in line, then I can't help you. And it was so angry and so loud that all of the children in my class froze. They had these wide eyes. Some of them started shaking, right? Because it was so scary. And I'm thinking to myself, no, lady, they don't know how to get their lunch and get in line because they've never done it before. Hello. I'm Nicole Dravillas-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the first days of the new school year, particularly in a nature-based preschool, and what we can reasonably expect from young children, and some tips for getting things started off on the right foot. Before I go into that, I do want to finish up that story and just say that it does have a happy ending. Many other teachers at the school attempted to help this teacher, give her ideas. Several of the teachers went in and tried to model things for her with the group. Unfortunately, it never got better, and she was asked to leave after a few weeks. And then after a series of subs, they were lucky enough to get a brand new, young, right, 23-year-old teacher with that group. But she was loving and caring and patient. You can imagine by this time, that particular group of kids was pretty riled up and, pretty upset with their school experience. And she was able to work with them, turn things around. By the end of the year, all of those children knew that they were loved, and they were happily learning. And I didn't hear anything between the walls. But obviously, this is an extreme case. But I do think it's a good reminder to take the time at the beginning of the school year to really reset our expectations, right? We have fresh in our minds everything that our group of children were able to do at the end of the year. And we know them as extremely capable, and they know all of the routines, and they know how to share and behave with each other. But now we need to remind ourselves, like, what was it like when that group was at the beginning, right? And this is especially important in an outdoor nature-based classroom where children are more free to roam, more free to take risks. And therefore, we might have some more safety parameters that we need to set up with this group of children. So first, I think it's important to note that children are not little adults. we can respect them as humans and individuals while recognizing that they do not have all of the life experience of an adult. They don't have the impulse control. They don't have the communication abilities of an adult. And while children are naturally curious and interested learners, they do not come hardwired to sit still in a group listening to someone lecturing them, or even doing something that we teachers might consider exciting, right? Like reading a story or doing a puppet show or doing some sort of exploding science demonstration, right? So during those first weeks of school, you can reasonably expect that some children may not want to join your circle or your group time or whatever you call it. They may not want to look at something without touching. They may not be able to sit next to other children without touching or talking to them or playing with them, or they may not be able to sit at all. And I'm going to suggest that you pretty much accept all of this as normal and let it happen while you are teaching the behaviors that you would like to teach, right? At least for the first month or so, right? Don't push it. Know that this is going to happen. And when you attempt to teach it, right, it's a new skill. They might get it on the first try. They may not, right? And you're going to stay calm and patient. And yes, I do try to encourage all of the children to join our brief circle that first day, that first week. But I allow them to bring whatever they're working on or playing with, right, to our circle, right? And here I have a little bit of an advantage in that, we're nature based. So generally what they're playing with or working on is a stick, a flower, a pile of soil, blades of grass that they're picking while we're talking. And so it's a small natural item that they're bringing to our group. Right? And I allow them to join us in a way that is comfortable for them, right? Sitting, standing, laying down, whatever feels comfortable in the moment, right? Whether they're looking at me or not, that first day, not a big deal, right? You're going to do baby steps. Got them to the circle. That is all you want for that first day, right? And we're going to be playful about how we bring them to the circle, right? So if the children are exploring, right? All right, who wants to be a bunny? All right, all the bunnies, let's hop to the sandbox. All right, can the bunnies hop to that tree over there now? Do that a few times. All right, bunnies, go find your mat. Let's hop to your mat. Hop, hop, hop. All right, got to kneel down, nibble your carrots. All right, bunnies, put your carrots down. Look up at Mama Bunny right now. Okay. And I should say that, in our program, each child comes with a yoga mat that is like their space. We can roll them up and move them wherever we want to. And gives them a rather large amount of space. I mean, some parents will cut their child's yoga mat in half. It's still a fairly large space. They're not little carpet squares that the children have, so they can stretch out as long as they are within their defined space, right? And that's the caveat, right? Is that as we work with the children, right, you can do what you individually need to do, right? Figure out how to get your needs met, but without infringing on other people's needs. So that means that you're going to stay within your own space, right? Within your yoga mat, right? If you are standing up, you're standing up either on your yoga mat or behind everybody, right? So that you're not standing up between the book and everybody else, blocking their view. Whatever you're playing with, right? Is it quiet enough that it's not preventing everybody else from hearing. Um, and again, day one, we might mention it and then move on. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, right? You're going to pick one thing. That's it. That is it. You're going to teach it. And when that is learned, then you worry about the rest. And I'm going to say that on that first day, our circle time is short. I mean, short, right? So on that first day, we're going to sing a welcome song. And that is hopefully the song that we did at orientation. So it is familiar to everybody, right? And then we're going to spend 3 to 5 minutes on a really short name get to know you game, right? Either learning each other's names or learning something about each other that involves movement, right? So everybody stand on your yoga mat, jump off your yoga mat if you have a pet at home, right? Get back on your yoga mat, right? Jump off your yoga mat if you like chocolate ice cream. I don't know. Maybe do a few of those, right? This is not forever. This is a few of those so that they start to look around and, oh yeah, huh, you like chocolate ice cream? Huh, so do I. Everybody likes to eat cheese. I don't know what it is. And we may or may not read a story after that. Kind of depends on the particular group. And hopefully you've had an orientation or you've met with the children individually, or you are like us, lucky enough to have a multi-age group. So you're going to know your age distribution, right? Do you have mostly brand new 3-year-olds and not a lot of 4-year-old models or helpers? Right? Or do you have a large group of kids that are returning from last year or spent summer with you and therefore are familiar with the procedures, right? And just gauge that. Another way to gauge is I tend to, we usually read a story at orientation. And then I know, how do children react to that story? Were they all rapt? Right? Did I have their attention for that story? Or were their parents kind of, helping them through it? Or were they off wandering somewhere else while we read the story, right? That's how you're going to know, right, what they're ready for on that first day. And then you're going to show children what's on offer. We're going to briefly review our visual schedule. We're going to briefly review any boundaries, safety, bathroom procedures that we need to cover right away on that first day. And then we're going to send them off. And then while they're playing, again, we're going to keep in mind that this may be their very first time. They may have never done it before, right? Sharing materials with other children, waiting for a turn with something that they really want, asking for help, using various art materials, even deciding on their own, right? When their bodies are telling them they need a sip of water or they need to add or remove a layer of clothing, so that when we respond to the things that come up, we're coming from a teaching mindset, right? Whatever it is new, and we are going to need to teach these things. So we're going to have patience. We're going to give children grace. We're going to be gentle in the moment. And we're going to make a note of it, either written or mental, whatever it is, right? Maybe this is what we do tomorrow when we cover our procedures. Oh, this is the first procedure safety thing that we're going to teach, right? So could be, I noticed yesterday that, a lot of the markers were just being left open on the tables when people were done, right? Anybody want to, gotten ideas? Like, why should we close markers when we're not using them anymore? What's going to happen if we don't, right? Okay. So now that we know why we really should do this, what should we do, right? How can we remember, or how should we make sure the markers are closed? Somebody will have an idea. If they don't, great. That is your opportunity to get out that marker and play with it, right? With the children, in front of the children. Each child has a marker. How are you going to know when the marker is closed? What are you going to do with it? Let's practice it. And so what's going to make it easier for us? And problem solving together as a group. So as we begin this new school year, we want to keep our expectations in check. And this doesn't mean that we have low expectations for children, just that we recognize where they are developmentally, that we are most likely their very first school experience, that while humans are born hardwired for curiosity, they are not necessarily born for sitting still, listening in a group setting, right? All of those school specific behaviors. So tap into that curiosity and have patience with the rest. Right. Let us know how your beginning of the year is going. Do you have any tried and true routines that you swear by? Something new maybe that you tried this year that you found is working well, and you're going to put that in your repertoire year after year now. You can respond to comments under this video. You can respond to the weekly newsletter. You can let me know via Facebook message, Instagram, because we'd love to hear what you're doing and feature it so that everyone else can learn from it as well. And then I will see you here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.